What is going on, you guys? It is your boy Matt Talks Films. I am back, and I'm sorry for making my 31 subscribers wait too long. And I am back. I'm back with another review. I am back with another video, and I am back talking about another horror movie. This time, I am talking about the newest Conjuring installment, and hopefully the last, Conjuring Last Rites. Now, take this review with a little grain of salt. It's been 3 days since I've seen this movie. I like this movie more than others. A lot of people didn't like it. However, I thought this was a solid movie and maybe even on par with the first and second Conjuring. Now, that might sound crazy to a lot of people because I know how beloved the first two Conjuring films are. I think they are good horror movies. I think they are above serviceable horror movies. A lot of people think they're special, especially the first movie directed by James Wan. And I'm not going to get mad at that opinion, but I am not a part of that camp. And honestly, I think this movie is on par with the first two movies. And that's a crazy statement for me to say because I thought it was dreadful, the latest Conjuring before this one, which was Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It. I hated that movie. I thought it was boring. It was during the pandemic, and I thought it was dreadful. And I really thought that really could have been the end of the Conjuring franchise as we know it, but it wasn't because we got this movie, and we got to see another Conjuring movie in theaters. And honestly, I went into the theater expecting disappointment and bore and typical Conjuring stuff. Which, don't get me wrong, there is typical Conjuring stuff within this movie, but I was pleasantly surprised. I was surprised with what I got here. Yes, there are your typical, maybe even prototypical jump scares in this movie, but this movie is not as reliant on the jump scares as its predecessors, and I find that pleasant, to be honest. Listen, I think the death of horror movies is reliance on jump scares. I feel like a lot of horror movies saw what the first Conjuring movie did with jump scares and was like, you know what? Jump scares is the new thing. All we need is jump scares in movies and flying shit to scare people. And that was the wrong message because Conjuring 1, yes, it has jump scares. Yes, the jump scares are effective. However, the atmospheric horror done by James Wan is egregiously effective. You really, really immerse yourself within this atmosphere that James Wan creates and provides for you, and that is one of the biggest factors of why the first film is so successful. The second movie, good horror movie, scared me when I saw it in theaters. Haven't really watched it since. That included more reliance on jump scare and more flying shit, which I'm not a fan of, but I do think that is still a good movie. So what is Conjuring Last Rites about? I will tell you the trope of every Conjuring movie being this is their most terrifying case yet almost made me laugh to start this movie because they started with that screen crawl for this movie. This is the case that really fucked them up. They didn't say fuck them up, but you get what I'm coming from. Like, I laugh because that is a major trope for the Conjuring franchise, and this final movie lives up to it. So this movie heavily includes Ed and Lorraine's daughter. I forget her name. I'm not gonna look on my phone to remember her name. All right, I'm just gonna go off the top here with you guys. It includes her daughter. The first mission Ed and Lorraine ever did was a paranormal investigation, and Lorraine was pregnant. She was pregnant with her daughter. It's 1964, I believe. They're investigating this scenario within a shop. This girl's dad died, and he was experiencing these really weird feelings and this feeling of people following him and talking to him after this purchase of this mirror. Lorraine walks into the room, pregnant, mind you, goes to the mirror and immediately senses something's wrong. She touches the mirror, it cracks, then all of a sudden she feels something's wrong within her belly. Her baby is beginning to die, rushed to the hospital. There's this really great imagery of like when she's giving birth and she's saying, please don't let him hurt her. And like there's this guy crawling from the ceiling. Really good imagery. And it's not reliant on the jump scare. It's like making you this film during that scene is making you immerse yourself within the environment and put yourself in Lorraine's shoes. You're giving birth, you're a paranormal investigator, and your baby is about to be dead. And honestly, it is dead. It's a dead baby when she releases it from her body, and you see this demonic figure crawling from the ceiling and looking at you. That was pretty good imagery, but as it ends up, The baby doesn't die. After Ed and Lorraine start to do some praying and say, please God, don't take her away from me, she comes back to life. That's the beginning of the movie. So that mission wasn't just their first mission. It wasn't like, oh, that was our first mission. We're not going to remember that until we're older. No, that mission had purpose, and it's coming back to bite them years later. Now, this movie was heavily reliant on family stuff, which kind of was a nice refresher to the Conjuring franchise. I found myself liking the family stuff in this movie more than I ever thought I would. When I first found out this movie was going to be about Ed and Lorraine's daughter, more so than it isn't, I was like, man, really? Really? Do I give a fuck about another character in the Conjuring franchise right now? All I care about is Patrick Wilson as Ed and Vera Farmiga as Lorraine. And you know what? They didn't make me full on care about their daughter, but they kind of made me care. I didn't mind the family cookout scenes. I didn't mind Patrick Wilson as Ed being this father who's reluctantly giving off his daughter to marriage to her new fiance. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind Vera Farmiga playing this overprotective mother who doesn't want her daughter to follow her footsteps. I really did not mind that at all. I actually thought that was a really good cherry on top to a film that is rather dark. You know, it's not the darkest movie you'll ever see when it comes to demonic shit. You've seen it. It's a similar formula to the predecessors of this film. However, you know, I did appreciate the family stuff in this movie more than I ever thought I would. I thought Ed and Lorraine, Patrick Wilson, and Vera Farmiga continued to have great chemistry on screen together, and I honestly thought the actor who played their daughter was really good. Um, where this movie began to fail a little bit was when it reverted back to the flying shit. Like, there's a scene in this movie where the mirror's flying. There's also a scene in this movie where Ed and Lorraine's daughter. I'm not. This is a spoiler. So if you haven't seen the movie, click off. I like this movie. It was 3.5 out of 5, which is probably higher than I should have given it. I thought the CGI was lackluster in some spots and extremely noticeable, which is not great. You don't want your CGI to be totally noticeable. I thought this movie was tad bit too long. A movie like this should not be 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it was like 15 to 20 minutes too long. It really should be an hour and 15-minute movie. There was definitely some fat to be cut. I said cat because I love cats. But yeah, it was a strong outing to finish the Conjuring franchise. And let me talk a little bit about spoilers. So 3 out of 5, 7 out of 10, 70 out of 100. Not the best movie you see all year, but it was a surprise to me because I expected schlock, disappointment, and boredom, and I didn't get that. You know, I also have to preface this. I saw this movie with a slightly packed crowd, but also it wasn't a packed crowd because it was a huge theater. It was the biggest theater in the cinema I go to, and I was in a row by myself. The row behind me was empty, and the row in front of me was empty, and it was a cold theater. I didn't have a jacket on. I had to throw my jacket like an old woman on the front of me for a little bit, and that might partake into how scared I got sometimes. Listen, I wasn't totally scared. I don't get scared anymore, alright? I'm a big fucking dude. No. Listen, dude, I'm going to keep it real with you guys because I'm your honest film reviewer. There were some moments where I felt some shit, okay? I was scared. I was sitting up in my seat. I was like, fuck. And I really hate stupidity in horror movies, but without stupidity in horror movies, we wouldn't get good horror movies. And this is a good horror movie. It's serviceable. It's good, you know? Will I ever watch it again? Probably not. But if someone did have it on late night, I'd be like, fuck it. I'm diving into the Conjuring universe. I'm diving into the last Conjuring movie. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5. 7 out of 10, 70 out of 100. Let me talk a little about spoilers and what happened. Ed and Lorraine are retired. Ed is having severe heart problems. He's had heart attacks in the past. He cannot sustain another heart attack. So now him and Ed and Lorraine are traveling the country giving these paranormal talks, but no one is showing interest or showing up anymore. So, due to fate, innately, there is another house in Pennsylvania, I want to say. Sorry, it's been 3 days, and I don't want to look at my phone and be unprofessional to look up where it was. In Pennsylvania, it's a house full of kids, and you know, the husband and wife and the grandparents. They all live in the same house together. It's their daughter's birthday. What do they gift her? A mirror. That they're at a thrift shop or something like that, or a race or something, and the guy outside of the race or the thrift shop wanted to get rid of this mirror severely. And they bought it and bought it for their daughter, and there ensues the paranormal chaos. Um, the girls who the girl who is gifted this mirror is skeptic of the mirror, and honestly she hates the mirror. So her and her sister remove it. They throw it outside in the dumpster or outside on the sidewalk like they used to pick up garbage, and the mirror is crushed. However, it is not as easy as to crush a mirror and get rid of your problems in this paranormal world. Sometimes it makes it worse, and sometimes it doesn't even defeat the purpose of you destroying it, and chaos ensues. And this movie sets up a lot of scares, like normally the Conjuring franchise does. There's a scene to start this movie where the mom is on a phone call, and in the snack room, the phone is right next to the snack room, and the daughters, the little girls in this movie, were pulling on the cord in the snack room with the lights off, and she turns the lights on and it's the daughters. What do you know? Later in the movie, she thinks it's the daughters pulling the phone cord, and she's like, "Girls, girls," and she's the girls running up the stairs, so it's not the daughters. And that's one of the first signs of paranormal. And yeah, there's some really good stuff in this movie. When this movie is not a whole bunch of flying shit and a whole bunch of rah rah jump scares, this movie actually is really efficient and building atmosphere for you to be afraid of, and it really succinctly immerses you in this atmosphere. So I don't want to go about this blah blah blah. This is what this movie is about and talk about certain scenes because I won't. So pros and cons in this movie. Pros of this movie is I really appreciated its non-reliance on jump scares. I was not mad at the inclusion of Ed and Lorraine's daughter. I thought it added something to this movie that was lacking in the last Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It. I thought Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are good as always, despite it getting a little bit hacky towards the end and kind of losing my mind. Like, there's a scene in this movie where Ed and Lorraine's daughter, no, yeah, Ed and Lorraine's daughter gets possessed because she goes to this house first, and she ultimately pulls her parents out of retirement because she felt something, and their best friend priest, who we see at the cookout, hung himself and got murdered by this demon after he visited this house. And Ed and Lorraine's daughter knew and found out that he went to this house before he died, and she went there, leading to Ed and Lorraine following her there. And that's how they get to this house, and that's how they confront this mirror, who was from their past. And there's a scene where Ed and Lorraine's daughter finally gets possessed, and Lorraine sees her in this room, and she's possessed, and she starts crawling to you. How like they used to do this prototypical crawling and paranormal and demonic movies back in the day in the early 2000s, and she starts crawling, and that kind of took me out. Didn't scare me. I don't get scared at people crawling and shit anymore. When I was younger, I used to get scared of shit crawling on the ceiling, crawling on the walls. Like, one of the scariest scenes when I was growing up was Legion. I don't know if you guys remember that movie, when the old lady's crawling on the ceiling. Yeah, that was scary as fuck. I think I was sitting next to an old lady during that movie, and then I went to go see Blindside, and there was another old lady sitting next to me. I was scared as fuck. But yeah, there's a scene in this movie where Ed and Lorraine's daughter crawls after she gets possessed, because the demon all along wanted her, not the family. They've been waiting for her for years, because they technically saved her life, and yeah, and I wasn't really a huge fan of that scene. And there's also a scene where she's possessed, and there's a dog in this house who I'm begging for the whole time, please don't kill this dog like you killed the dog in the first Conjuring. And Ed and Lorraine's daughter, because I don't remember her name, I'm sorry guys, Anakin Skywalker's this dog, picks it up with her force and slams it against the wall. I died laughing watching this scene. I am not for this force shit that they use in demonic movies. This is not Star Wars. This can't happen in real life. I'm not afraid of it. I'm more afraid of devil talk, demonic talk, and this atmospheric buildup that you can provide through those mechanisms. So yeah, I was not a fan of per se the action at the end. I think that's when it started to revert to its old problems in its predecessors. But I really appreciated the build-up towards the end. So I appreciated Farmiga and Wilson. I appreciated the family stuff that added a different element to this movie that I wasn't expecting. I appreciated the atmospheric horror. I thought Michael Chaff's Despite Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It being lacking, which he directed, this was a big improvement and honestly a surprise from him. And yeah, I really appreciated the build up to the horror. Ultimately, I really appreciated the build up to the final sequences of this movie, despite it being rushed, despite this movie being 15 minutes longer than it should have been. It was weird. So I really appreciated 5 things about this movie. Here's what I didn't like about this movie. I thought the CGI was bad and really noticeable in some spots. There's some jump scares with some demonic faces that were clearly CGI. When the daughter gets possessed, the CGI doesn't look great on her face. Wasn't a fan of the CGI in this movie. I wasn't a huge fan of this movie when it reverted back to its jump scares. And I wasn't a huge fan of this movie. And I wasn't a huge fan of this final action sequence at the end of this movie. I thought it was lackluster. And then afterwards, we have to deal with the Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga look forward into the future about their new life and how they're going to enjoy it so much. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so that's what I didn't really like about this movie. That's what I loved about this movie. I loved more things than I didn't like. So, yeah, I thought this movie was above serviceable. I probably should just give this movie a 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10, 60, or like a 65 out of 100. But I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. And you know what? Yes, my ratings will fluctuate over time. Yes, I might change this rating in the future, but guess what? That's what makes movies so fun, and that's what makes talking about movies so fun. That's what makes reviewing movies on Letterboxd so fun. Your opinion can change, however, nothing as impactful as your first opinion. So yeah, Conjuring, The Last Rites. A big surprise for me. Thought it was going to be a bore. Thought it was going to be a disappointment. It wasn't. Hopefully this is the end of the Conjuring franchise, but obviously the Conjuring franchise loves money, the studio loves money, so guess what? We aren't going to see Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson anymore. We might see the fucking daughter. Fictional stories this time. Bro, please, no, 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 no. This is a more than suitable ending to the Conjuring franchise. There is some great atmospheric horror. There's some really sentimental and wholesome stuff. So please, no more Conjuring movies. This was a good movie. Let it be. I know that's a not popular opinion at this point, but it was to me. So yeah, The Conjuring Last Rites, one of the better horror movies of the year, in a year that's a really good horror. The Conjuring The Last Rites, one of the better horror movies of the year, and a year that has some really great horror. It's your boy Matt Talks Films, 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10, 70 out of 100. The Conjuring The Last Rites, worth seeing it in theaters with a crowd. It's your boy Matt Talks Films. My birthday is Wednesday, September 11th. Let me tell you the movies I'm seeing in theaters before my birthday. I'm seeing Scorsese's The Departed. I'm seeing Goodfellas, top 3 film of all time for me. I'm seeing Taxi Driver, top 5 film all time for me. And I'm seeing The Thing on Thursday, on my birthday, in theaters. So I'm seeing 3 of my top 5 favorite films of all time in theaters leading up to my birthday. How fucking great do I have it? Telling you guys, if you have a Regal membership, I don't know if they're doing this at AMC, the Cine series they're doing at Regal, where you get to see all the classics in theaters, is worth it. I saw so many classics this past week. One of them I didn't see in my lifetime before, and my first experience was to experience it in theaters, and it was an experience that I can't garnish too often, and I loved it. Go see movies in the cinema, especially the classics, if you can. So, it's your boy Matt Talks Films. You'll see me Wednesday night, because guess what? It's my birthday. Don't give a fuck. Doing a video for my guys who watch this video, even the gals. So, it's your boy Matt Talks Films. Thank you for supporting me if you have been supporting me so far. If you made it to the end of this video, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys on the flip side.